Welcome to Have I Got Gnus for You? I'm delighted that you've joined me for this celebration of comic songs and honoured that you have selected this event above and beyond all the other social activities available to you this weekend. Now, in any normal year, this event will be taking place at the Spread Eagle in Lymm, and I would just have made my way through the packed crowd of adoring fans to reach the stage. This performance is a little different. I'm here at Lymm Methodist Church, and I have the most select audience imaginable. At the back, I have Adam Lyon and Dave D, who are here to manage the sound and the video, and they're only here because we're paying them. And also here is Jane, our COVID marshal, and she is also here for contractual reasons, as she is my wife. Well, it's been a very hard year, but as spring approaches, we're almost ready to be released back into the wild. And I want to start a song celebrating one of the joyful activities that we can all take part in once we have returned again to the wild. Here we go. Spring is here, life is skittles and life is beer. I think the loveliest time of the year is the spring. I do, don't you? Of course you do. But there's one thing that makes spring complete for me, and makes every Sunday a treat for me. All the world seems in tune on a spring afternoon when we're poisoning pigeons in the park. Each Sunday you'll see my sweetheart and me as we poison the pigeons in the park. When they see us coming, the birdies all try and hide, but they still go for peanuts when coated with cyanide. The sun's shining bright, everything seems all right when we're poisoning pigeons in the park. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la-la-la, la-la-la. We gained notoriety and caused much anxiety in the Audubon Society with our games. They call it impiety and lack of propriety and quite a variety of unpleasant names. But it's not against any religion to want to dispose of a pigeon. So if Sunday you're free, why don't you come with me and we'll poison the pigeons in the park? And maybe we'll do in a squirrel or two as we poison the pigeons in the park. We'll murder them all amid laughter and merriment, except for the few we take home to experiment. My pulse will be quickening with each drop of strychnine we feed to a pigeon. It just takes a smidgen to poison a pigeon in the park. Thank you. Thank you. Good. As you can see, I'm not alone. And so, that song was by the great American satirist Tom Lehrer, who was a maths lecturer at Harvard and then went on to find fame on television, appearing in Britain on programmes such as the Frost Report. But the Americans never got the hang of Tom Lehrer. They wouldn't have him on television. The advertisers were worried about the backlash from the audience. Well, for my first encore, I'm going to sing a song by Jake Thackeray, the Leeds-born schoolteacher who came to fame in the late 60s on Braden's Week, a programme which I am much too young to remember. Now, anybody who knows me, and indeed most people who don't, will tell you that I am obsessed with Jake Thackeray. But I'm not the only one. The comedian John Richardson is a huge fan, and if you watch Meet the Richardsons on Dave, then you will see what I mean. Now, this next song is the most honest love song ever written. Jake had a theory that there was a relationship that on the one hand, the more beautiful and wonderful the person with whom you fall in love, then on the other, the more peculiar their family would turn out to be. I know this to be true because I am married to a very beautiful and wonderful woman. So here is La-Di-Da, a song for all those intending to marry. Now we're agreed that we're in love, we'll have to face the la-di-da, the eyewash, all of the fancy pantomime. I love you very much. I'll try, love, I'll bill and coo with your gruesome Auntie Susan. I'll stay calm, I'll play it cool. I'll let your tetchy uncles get me back up across my heart. And I shan't get shirty when they say I look peculiar. I'll be nice to your mother, I'll come all over la-di-da. Although she always gets up my nose, I love you very much. And so I'll smile and I'll acquiesce when she invites me to caress her scabby cat. I'll sit still while she knits and whitters across my heart. And I shan't lay a finger on the crabby old bat face. I'll be polite to your daddy, frightfully la-di-da. Although he always bores me to my boots, I love you very much. And so I won't boo and hiss when he starts to reminisce. I won't drop off, I won't flare up. The runs he used to score and how he won the war cross my heart. But I'll have to grit my teeth when he goes on about his rupture. I'll behave at the wedding breakfast, I'll be la-di-da. So help me, hearty toasts and crummy jokes, I love you very much. So help me, I'll force a laugh for the flicking photographs, so have no fear. I won't turn tail, I won't run amok when the females chuck confetti in my ears. And cross me heart, love, I'll keep off the pale ale when we're off on our own. No more la-di-bloody-da, I promise we just won't have the time. We won't have time for such fancy pantomimes. I'll love you far too much. Thank you. La-di-da by the great Jake Thackeray. Excuse me. As a postscript to that, I should explain that I'm currently writing a biography of Jake Thackeray, and I recently discovered that Jake had thought that it would be a good idea to sing that song to his future in-laws on the very day he first met them. Apparently, it didn't go down well. So, we move on from Jake Thackeray to Flanders and Swan, a duo who became famous in the late 50s with their review of songs at the drop of a hat. Now, the lockdown has been hard for everybody, but certain good things have come out of it. For example, on our road, we now have a WhatsApp group. We're much more connected to other people, and we use WhatsApp to share messages about lost cats, spare plants, and also to ask other people for recommendations for personal services. Things like French polishing, or who can recommend a plumber or an electrician. This is a song which I dedicate to anybody who is currently having work done. Good luck. It was on the Monday morning, the gas man came to call. The gas tap wouldn't turn, I wasn't getting gas at all. He stripped out all the skirting boards to try to find the main. So I had to call the carpenter to put them back again. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on the Tuesday morning, the carpenter came round. He hammered and he chiselled and he said, look what I found. Your joists are full of dry rot, but I'll put them all to rights. Then he nailed right through a cable and out went all the lights. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on the Wednesday morning, the electrician came. He called me Mr. Sanderson, which isn't quite my name. He couldn't reach the fuse box without standing on the bin. And his foot went through a window, so I called the glazier in. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on the Thursday morning, the glazier came along with his blowtorch and his putty and his merry glazier song. He put in a new window pane, it took no time at all. Then I had to call the painter to come and paint the wall. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on the Friday morning, the painter made a start. With undercoats and overcoats he painted every part, every nook and every cranny. But I found when he had gone that he'd painted over the gas tap and I couldn't turn it on. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. On Saturday and Sunday they do no work at all. So 'twas on the Monday morning that the gas man came to call. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. Thank you. Thank you. The Gas Man Cometh by Flanders and Swan. Well, having gone back to the 50s, we now jump forward to the 1980s. And a song which was written by Richard Stilgo, who used to be on Nationwide, a programme I am old enough to remember, and written with Peter Skellern, a great musician. The pair of them travelled for many years on tour, performing their comic songs together. And this is the only song I can think of that is about a librarian. And appropriately enough, perhaps, it is about a librarian who has been left on the shelf. Joyce, the librarian, strict vegetarian, 40 and living with mum, wears sandals and glasses, attends evening classes and wonders if romance will come. Though she'd never been kissed, it's not something she'd missed until a few weeks before, when George the Rotarian, handsome Lotharian, stepped through the library door. Now George was unmarried and the torch that Joyce carried was burning a hole in her heart. She wanted to show him, but didn't yet know how to, so she didn't know where to start. So with growing abhorrence, she read D.H. Lawrence to glean a few ideas, which she turned down flat. No, she couldn't do that, not in a million years. Joyce the librarian, strict vegetarian, was burning with animal lust. Alarming sensations, strange palpitations, a mix of delight and disgust. So she busied herself rearranging the shelf to try to control her dreams. Joyce the librarian, the disciplinarian, was falling apart at the seams. The very next day she kept out of the way when George returned his books. But with growing conviction she wandered through fiction and threw him some longing looks. And when George joined the queue, she knew just what to do. She smiled and took off her specs, but then looked with horror, 'cause he'd come to borrow the further joy of sex. Perhaps because latterly she'd read Lady Chatterley, something just snapped in her head. She gave herself gladly, wildly, madly to George that night in his bed. But then, just as she feared, George disappeared, some other librarian to woo. Now there's a sob in her voice, 'cause both Book and Joyce are a fortnight overdue. Joyce the Librarian by Richard Stilgoe and Peter Skellern. So, we go on. You've heard songs 40, 50, 60 years old, but this song is much more recent. I'm going to sing something which is by Frédéric de Breu. Frédéric de Breu is a legendary and entirely fictional French poet-singer, a chansonnière, and he is the creation of a friend of mine, Alex Marsh, who created Fred as a character in his comic novel, The Resurrection of Frédéric de Breu, which is available in all good bookshops. I recommend it to you. Now, through a rather odd series of events, which I'm not going to bore you with, Alex and I ended up writing an entire album's worth of songs for the legendary Fred, and you'll be pleased to know that we wrote them in English translation. So I'm going to sing for you now the first of the songs we wrote together, a song about a widow. It is a song which I do not completely understand, and if I did, I would be thoroughly ashamed of it. 40 years of marriage to a faithless lying hound. A smile played on her face the day they placed him in the ground. I'll pay him back for being such a beast. She chucked soil on the coffin lid, then copped off with the priest. Let us not begrudge this ancient widow her revenge. They say the one laughs longest who is laughing at the end. No, let us not begrudge this ancient widow her revenge. They say the one laughs longest who is laughing at the end. The mourners heard the frantic panting echo down the nave. The widow was cavorting with the lad who dug the grave. She gave a startled altar boy a second confirmation, then set about the choristers and blessed the congregation. A policeman came to take the rampant widow to the chokey. She saw the cuffs, her eyes lit up, he didn't have a hope. He radioed the station and pleaded for assistance. 10 coppers turned up, truncheons raised. She offered no resistance. Let us not begrudge this ancient widow her revenge. They say the one laughs longest who is laughing at the end. No, let us not begrudge this ancient widow her revenge. They say the one laughs longest who is laughing at the end. In court she stood before the beak and cried it isn't fair. Then leapt to the dock and showed her brief, her mourning underwear. She goosed the judge, she groped the clerk in passion-driven fury, outraged the public gallery and tampered with the jury. In time, of course, she had to go and face up to her maker. St. Peter's not recovered since he told her that he'd take her. The The epitaph read, vengeance drove this modest lady mad. Poor mother lost her dignity the day we buried Dad. Thank you, thank you. The Vengeful Widow by Frederick de Breur. Look out for the album. Now, in recent years, I've noticed a remarkable social phenomenon. I refer, of course, to the massive popularity of ballroom dancing. It seems now that if you don't watch Strictly, then you become a social outcast, a social misfit. And I have many good friends who now, in times when lockdown doesn't apply, are off out ballroom dancing. Indeed, some of them have been so gripped by the passion for ballroom dancing that they have acquired accessories like castanets. Now, for a long time, I thought that this was all perfectly innocent, good, clean fun. But then I heard this song by Tom Lehrer, and I'm beginning to wonder whether something else is going on here. I ache for the touch of your lips, dear, but much more for the touch of your whips, dear. You can raise welts like nobody else as we dance to the masochism tango. Let our love be a flame, not an ember. Say it's me that you want to dismember. Blacken my eye, set fire to my tie as we dance to the masochism tango. At your command, before you here I stand. My heart is in my hand. Yeah, it's here that I must be. My heart entreats, just feel those savage beats. Then go put on your cleats and come and trample me. Your heart is hard as stone or mahogany. That's why I'm in such exquisite agony. My soul is on fire, it's aflame with desire, which is why I perspire when we tango. You caught my nose in your left castanet, love. I can feel the pain yet, love. Every time I hear drums, and I envy the rose that you held in your teeth, dear, with the thorn underneath, dear, sticking into your gum. Your eyes cast a spell that bewitches. The last time I needed 20 stitches to sew up the gash you made with your lash as we danced to the masochism tango. Bash in my brain and make me scream with pain, then kick me once again and say we'll never part. I know full well I'm underneath your spell, so darling, if you smell something burning, it's my heart. Excuse me. Take your cigarette from its holder and burn my initials in my shoulder. Fracture my spine and say that you're mine as we dance to the masochism tango. The masochism tango. Don't try it at home. So, from Tom Lehrer, we move on to Pete Scott, who is a wonderful comic songwriter from the northeast of England, and I had the great privilege of supporting him when he came to play at Limb Festival a few years ago. Pete is a genius at writing songs which are about two things at once. Excuse me. Now, this particular song pretends to be about a very popular detective series on television. And I would like to dedicate it to some friends who are watching. I'm not going to name them, but they know who they are. I knew our romance was dead the night we watched Midsummer Murders. There's nothing more to be said when you're taking in this kind of show. A countdown contestant called Fred, or an outer Mongolian yak herder, would find something to do other than view 1 minute of Midsummer Murders. In the village of Midsummer Norton, walk down the street and just look. There are coffee shop couples a-courting, and a whole bunch of killers and crooks. Gentlemen called Reggie and Clive, and ladies who are mainly called Margot, are lucky to be alive. The murder rate's worse than Chicago. I knew our thing was kaput the night we watched Midsummer Murders. We were already putting 1 foot in the relationship counselor's door. We could have been learning the flute or the saxophone if you'd preferred a funkier sound. I know I would have found it much more fun than Midsummer Murders. The peaceful idyll's a sham. It's a dodgy and dangerous place. Somebody's daddy or mam, done in on a regular basis. The barman who pours you your pint, the waitress who brings you your lunch. Sisters and brothers are topping each other. They're all such a murderous bunch. I knew our nuptials were knacked the night we watched Midsummer Murders. It's an actual fact, backed by statistics I've seen. The script writers, they should all be sacked as the plots become even absurder, and we vegetate to a comatose state, and it's all down to Midsummer Murders. An air of complacency settles as you pour yourself 1 more gin, reassured by the sight of John Nettles and the Gaviscon kicking in. Can we spare a thought on how this ever caught on? This carnage, this bloodfest in Midsummer Norton. But suffer in silence I must, for to criticize or to carpo only bring this response that I've heard more than once. We could have been watching Miss Marple. I knew our romance was dead. Thank you. Midsummer Murders by Pete Scott, from the album Why Sing Goodbye Songs? Look out for it. Well, at my Limb Festival shows, the audience would normally join in with this next song, and since you are there and I am here, if you do wish to sing along, there is absolutely nothing I can do to stop you. The title of this show, of course, is Have I Got Gnus for You? And if you were hoping that I would sing the Gnus song by Flanders and Swan, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. And you're going to tell me that this next song is irrelevant. But it's not irrelevant. It's a hippopotamus. A bold hippopotamus was standing one day on the bank of the cool Shalimar. He gazed at the bottom as it peacefully lay by the light of the evening star. Away on her hilltop sat combing her hair his fair hippopotamine maid. The hippopotamus was no ignoramus and sang her this sweet serenade. Mud, mud, glorious mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. So follow me, follow, down to the hollow, and there let us wallow in glorious blood. The fair hippopotama he aimed to entice from a seat on that hilltop above. Since she hadn't got a ma to give her advice, came tiptoeing down to her love. Like thunder the forest re-echoed the sound of the song that they sang as they met. His inamorata adjusted her garter, then lifted her voice in duet. Mud, mud, glorious mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. So follow me, follow, down to the hollow, and there let us wallow in glorious mud. Now more hippopotami began to convene on the bank of that river so wide. I wonder now what am I to say of the scene that ensued on the Shalimar side. They dived all at once with an ear-splitting splosh, then rose to the surface again. A regular army of hippopotami, all singing this haunting refrain. Mud, mud, glorious mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. So follow me, follow, down to the hollow, and there let us wallow in glorious mud, mud, glorious mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. So follow me, follow, down to the hollow, and there let us wallow in glorious mud. Thank you. The Hippopotamus Song by Flanders and Swan. There we are. Right, excuse me, tuning up. All part of the live experience. So the next song I'm going to sing is the newest song in the show. It's a song for our times, a song I wrote about the heartbreak of the ending of a modern love affair. Now, if this touches a nerve with anybody who is watching the show, I can only apologise and suggest that you do seek support, although I'm not sure that telephone support services are available yet. This song is called Calling Time. I'm calling time on us, dear. I'm here to say goodbye. You will not change my mind, and it's best that you don't try. We've seen good times together, the happiest I've known. But now the time has come to say goodbye to you, old phone. That day when I first saw you, I loved you instantly. With such attractive features, you were the one for me. I knew we had connected. You lit up at my touch, the start of a relationship that meant so much. Remember our first summer and all we did that year. It felt like an addiction. I had to have you near. I found you so exciting. I barely saw my friends. I never for a moment thought this love would ever end. But then you started changing. Your energy was gone. Each day you just got slower. I couldn't turn you on. I tried to talk things through, but you blanked me from the start. I should have known an android has a cold, cold heart. I worked to save our romance, to keep alive the flame. We tried a change of network. The problem stayed the same. Lord knows I fought temptation. I wanted to stay true. But when they said a free upgrade, well, what's a man to do? The spirit may be willing, but flesh is weak, it said. Now I've a younger model. My love for you is dead. But I shall not forget you. Of that, please have no fear. 'Cause after all, I was engaged for 1 whole year. And I'll still be around, dear. You'll see me every day. I couldn't be so cruel as to throw my love away. You'll see again the good times, the best is yet to come. I know that you're just gonna love my 8-year-old hyperactive semi-feral son. Calling time. Thank you very much. And another drink. It's hot work here. Now, most of the songs that I'm singing this evening are purely comic. But sometimes, of course, a comic song has a serious point to make. And this song is one of those. It is a song by a legendary French singer, a real one this time, called Georges Brassens. And when the song was first released in 1952, it was banned from French radio. It is a satirical song which calls into question capital punishment and the decisions of judges, but it does so in a very curious and quite offensive way. Jake Thackeray idolised Georges Brassens and produced this wonderful adaptation. To set the scene, you will need to imagine that you are in the south of France, that it is the height of summer, and that the travelling circus has just arrived in town. And it is brought with a whole assortment of animals. And a group of women have gathered around one of the cages. Through the bars of a large enclosure, the village ladies intently stared, where... I do apologise. This demonstrates that I'm not an automaton, and this is a live show. Frog removed, hopefully. Through the bars of a large enclosure, the village ladies intently stared, where a gorilla with massive composure was impassively combing his hair. They were shamelessly interested, eyeing devoutly a certain spot, but my mother's a special request that I refrain from telling you what. Brother Gorilla. The door of the circus lock-up, where the noble brute had been put by an administrational cock-up, was unwisely left unshut. "I'm going to loose it at last," he cried, swinging lissomely out of his cage, referring, of course, to his chastity. He was just at the difficult age. Brother Gorilla. Those self-same ladies who previously had been licking their lips from afar did a bunk which shows how devious and whimsical women are. In the path of a lovesick monkey, there were two who wouldn't budge, a little old lady all shrunken and a petty sessions judge. Brother Gorilla. The old girl said it would be surprising and unlikely in the extreme if anyone found me appetizing and beyond my wildest dreams. The judge intoned with tranquility, to take me for a female ape would be the height of improbability. Even judges make mistakes. Brother Gorilla. It would be curious and uncanny, say if the choice were up to you, to ravish a judge or a granny, and you didn't know which to do. If I were in such a position, and the choice had got to be mine, I'd beg the old lady's permission, but go for grandma every time. Brother Gorilla. The gorilla is very proficient in the role of a paramour, but his mental equipment's deficient and his eyesight's awfully poor. With a Paleolithic leer, he gave the old lady the miss, and grabbing the judge by the ear, gave him an introductory kiss. Brother Gorilla. In time, the gorilla's desires were more or less gratified. The judge, being rather biased, couldn't see the funny side. He was kicking and screaming and wailing when his moment of truth had come, like those wretches he orders daily to be taken away and hung. Brother Gorilla. Thank you. Brother Gorilla by Georges Brassens and Jake Thackeray. Well, there's been a lot of talk recently and a lot in the news about people's behaviour around statues. And it is tempting to think that this is a new issue, but of course it isn't. And Jake Thackeray had something to say on the subject a few years ago. Now, this next song might be about the evils of drink. Or it may only go to show that it's really quite easy to put people on pedestals, but much harder to keep them there. This is the statues. Closing time on Saturday, it was dark. Me and Uncle Samuel were lying in the park, toes towards the moonlight, noses in the flower beds, and we know that what we saw, we saw. She was naked, she was cast in bronze, standing in the lake amid the corporation swans. He was Millstone Grit, he was Sir Robert Walpole, and we know that what we heard, we heard. Lady, is the water cold tonight? Or does the silky moonlight warm your heart to me? Or must I hanker for 100 years again, and never-endingly gaze upon your flanks, your face? Well, me and my Uncle Sam constable, well, we were right on her side. Poor darling, she was shy, and she had her pride, and nowhere to hide. We were there, we saw the aged sire, shaking with a century of petrified desire, climbing from his pedestal all stiff and sooty, and we know that what we saw, we saw. He began to tremble and to sway. We were drunk as penguins, but we saw him clear as day, clumping to the water's edge, Sir Robert Walpole, and we know that what we heard, we heard. Lady, is the water cold tonight? Because the milky moonlight warms my heart to you. So let the devil take the park attendant first. My heart may burst, so I'm not waiting any longer. Lady, well, me and my Uncle Sam, Inspector, well, we both got to our feet. Poor darling, she was sweet and not very old, and awfully cold. We rolled up our sleeves, we got to work, went for him like buffaloes, like windmills gone berserk. He fought like a tiger, we've got scars to prove it, and we know that what we've got, we've got. We hung on like death, we did our best. He was big and gritty, and he fought like one possessed. He was much too good for us, was Robert Walpole. He put us down and out, and he strode on. Lady, was the water cold last night? Was it the creamy, dreamy moonlight warmed your heart? Oh, little nymph, we both did what we could, but it's so strange you're infinitely changed today. Well, me and my Uncle Sam, your worship, well, we both feel something's not right. Today she wears a smile, her face is alight, and her eyes are bright. Ever so bright, awfully bright. The Statues by Jake Thackeray. And now I think for a little bit more Tom Lehrer. And a Tom Lehrer love song. I hold your hand in mine, dear, I press it to my lips. I take a healthy bite from your dainty fingertips. My joy would be complete, dear, if you were only here. But still I keep your hand as a precious souvenir. The night you died, I cut it off. I really don't know why, for now each time I kiss it, I get blood stains on my tie. I'm sorry now I killed you, for our love was something fine. And till they come to get me, I will hold your hand in mine. I Hold Your Hand in Mine by Tom Lehrer, who was very proud that the New York Times wrote in a review, and I quote, "Mr. Lehrer's muse is not fettered by such considerations as taste." I think that is demonstrated magnificently by that song. So, we're going to return to Jake Thackeray, and I'm going to tune my guitar. And I was delighted today to receive a request to sing a particular song in this show. And it's lovely to receive requests, and the song that was requested is a fantastic song, but the thing is, I can't quite remember all the words. That will do the job. And so I'm afraid I'm not going to sing that song, but for the person who requested it, if it is any comfort, this next song contains a lot of the same notes. And it is a delicious story. There once was an old captain who wished nothing more than to live again his voyages and walk by the seashore. A simple man and a good man, but the bane of his life was his ill-tempered, bad-hearted jobber wife. Though the jolly captain was plagued by her bile, he smoked his long pipe and he smiled upon her tenderly. He didn't like her much, but he loved her, despite her rough tongue. The whey-faced old nagbag had been his pretty darling once. She fell down her staircase, she fractured her neck. She lay upon the linoleum in a black apoplexy. Her baleful eyes bulged with unspeakable abuse. It seems that her spleen had been overproducing. So the jolly captain carried her to bed. Close your poor eyes, he said, sleep a little peaceably. He brought her fresh butter, cool watercress, violet and peppermint to soothe her heart's bitterness. From her deathbed she said, if you marry when I die, I'll crawl from my coffin and haunt you vexatiously. With a howl and a scowl, with a shudder and a shake, she spat out her peppermint and went to vex her maker. Unhappy captain, so sad when she died, he closed her wild eyes and he cried a bit on the Friday. But he saw no good reason for wasting away, and he married an apple-cheeked girl on the Saturday. Alas, jolly captain, you've married too soon. She'll come to torment you from underneath her tombstone. She'll scratch and she'll scrape her way up from the grave, hacking her way back again with furious fingernails. No, said the jolly captain, she'll stay in her place. She can scratch, but she can claw till she's black in the face. No, she won't come to haunt me and taunt me, I know, 'cause I buried her face downwards, she's a long way to go. No, she won't come to haunt me and taunt me, I know, 'cause I buried her face downward, she's a long way to go. The Jolly Captain by Jake Thackeray. How many other writers would use words such as linoleum, apoplexy, and vexatiously in a song? Well, lockdown has been enormously challenging for everybody, and it has changed the way in which we live our lives. However, in meeting that challenge, there's one particular quality in the British character which has stood us in good stead and has really come into its own. I am referring, of course, to our ability to queue endlessly for hours. Now, the idea for this next song came to me whilst I was standing in a queue at a supermarket. Paul Simon, the American singer and songwriter, a member of Simon & Garfunkel, famously wrote Homeward Bound on Widnes railway station. And if you go to the station now, you will see that there is a blue plaque commemorating the event. I modestly like to hope that perhaps one day there will be a blue plaque on the Lidls in Warrington noting that this song, A Little Love Story, was created there. I first saw you in the supermarket queue, and instantly I knew this was destiny. Although I wanted to move closer, that yellow tape said no, sir, and the doorman was insistent. I must keep my distance. I wait for you in the supermarket queue. I've got a date every Saturday at 8. How does one take first steps in romance? In dreams I see us slow dance. Would you let me hold your basket? But I never ask it. I'm watching you in the supermarket queue. I stay behind with the best view I can find. I love your eyes, they're always smiling. Your lips must be beguiling, but I know my place, I daren't ask. Miss, take off that face mask. I'll stay with you in our supermarket queue. I shall not stray. Others won't tempt me away. I won't chase offers down at Tesco's. I won't leave you for Waitrose. Down the aisle we walk, I vow to stay 2 meters from you. What would I do in our supermarket queue if you weren't here? It would be the end, I fear. My little lover in the distance gives meaning to existence. If you go, I'll be heartbroken, though we've never spoken. So I'll see you in our supermarket queue. I shan't be late every Saturday at 8. But will I ever get to kiss you? Hold hands, that would be bliss too, till the day we don't need gloves on. I'll sing my little love song in the queue. A little love song. Well, from a very modern song to another old song. Now, this song is only going to offend you if you have the misfortune not to be English. And if you are offended by it, then please be assured that having been born in Wales with an Irish grandmother and with Scottish ancestry, at least 7/8 of me is going to be offended with you. It is a song written more than 60 years ago by Flanders and Swan, but what goes around comes around, and I think that it captures the new national mood in the post-Brexit era. Now, at the moment, there is growing support for Scottish and Welsh independence and Irish reunification, and some might say that that is being ably assisted by the campaigning of Downing Street, but not everyone would agree on that. But I think we need to look ahead and think about what will be our new English national anthem should the worst come about. And this is my nomination, and it begins with a classic piece of English humility. I give you Flanders and Swan, Song of Patriotic Prejudice. The English, the English, the English are best. I couldn't give tuppence for all of the rest. The rottenest parts of these islands of ours we've left in the hands of 3 unfriendly powers. Examine the Irishman, Welshman or Scot, you'll find he's a stinker as likely as not. The Scotsman is mean, as we're all well aware, and bony and blotchy and covered with hair. He eats salted porridge, plays bagpipes all day, and doesn't want Westminster leading the way. Oh, the English, the English, the English are best. I couldn't give tuppence for all of the rest. The Irishman now our contempt is beneath. He sleeps in his boots and he lies through his teeth. He blows up policemen, or so I have heard, and blames it on Cromwell and William III. But the English are noble, the English are nice, and worth any other at double the price. The Welshman's dishonest and cheats when he can, and little and dark, more like monkey than man. He works underground with a hat lamp in his hat, and he sings far too loud, far too often and flat. And crossing the Channel, one cannot say much of the French or the Spanish, the Danish or Dutch. The Germans are German, the Russians are red, and the Greeks and Italians eat garlic in bed. But the English are honest, the English are good, and clever and modest and misunderstood. And all the world over, each nation's the same. They've simply no notion of playing the game. They argue with umpires, they cheer when they've won, and they practice beforehand, which ruins the fun. Oh, the English, the English, the English are best. So up with the English and down with the rest. It's not that they're wicked or naturally bad. It's knowing they're foreign that makes them so mad. For the English are all that a nation should be, and the flower of the English are Paul Thompson, Adam Lyon, and Dave Dee. A song of patriotic prejudice. And so we move on to our final song from Tom Lehrer. When Tom Lehrer wrote this song, he was inspired by the fact that the Catholic Church had just held the Second Vatican Council, or Vatican II as he called it, which had led to the modernisation of worship, including, for the first time, permission for churches to use languages other than Latin in the service. But Tom Lehrer thought that they ought to go much further than this and ought to be using popular song formats in worship. And he generously offered them this song, which, to the best of my knowledge, has never been used in a service. I give you the Vatican Rag. First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Do whatever steps you want if you have cleared them with the pontiff. So everybody say his own Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican Rag. Get in line in that processional, step into the small confessional. There the guy who's got religion will tell you if your sin's original. If it is, try playing it safer. Drink the wine and chew the wafer. 2, 4, 6, 8. Time to transubstantiate. So first you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Make a cross on your abdomen. When in Rome, do like a Roman. Everybody singing a Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican Rag. Thank you, and any departure from the original lyrics will be spotted by the cognoscenti. Okay, well, on to another song of religious sorts, and this is my final song from Jake Thackeray, and it is probably his greatest comic creation. Oh, Sister Josephine, what do all these policemen mean by coming to the convent in a grim limousine? After Sister Josephine, while you, Sister Josephine, you sit with your boots upon the altar screen, you smoke one last cigar. What a funny nun you are. The policemen say that Josephine's a burglar in disguise. Big bad Desmond, 15 years on the run. The sisters disbelieve it, no, that can't be Josephine. Just think about her tenderness towards the younger nuns. Oh, Sister Josephine, they're searching the chapel where you've been seen, the nooks and the crannies of the nuns' canteen. After Sister Josephine, while you, Sister Josephine, you sip one farewell Benedictine before your au revoir. A right funny nun you are. Admittedly, her hands are big and hairy and embellished with a curious tattoo. Admittedly, her voice is on the deep side, and she seems to shave more often than the other sisters do. Oh, Sister Josephine, founder of the convent pontoon team, they're looking through your bundles of funny magazines. After Sister Josephine, while you, Sister Josephine, you give a goodbye whiff of Benzedrine to the convent budgerigar. A ruddy funny nun you are. No longer will her snores ring through the chapel during prayers, nor her lustful moanings fill the stilly night. No more empty bottles of altar wine come clunking from her cell. No longer will the cloister toilet seat stand upright. Oh, Sister Josephine, slipping through their fingers like Vaseline, leaving them to clutch your empty crinoline. After Sister Josephine, while you, Sister Josephine, sprinting through the suburbs when last seen, dressed only in your wimple and your rosary, a right funny nun you seem to be. Sister Josephine, well, I'm almost out of water and I'm almost out of songs. Before we finish, and before I play the last song, I would like to thank Adam and Dave for managing things so masterfully at the back, and Jane for managing us. I'd like to thank Lymm Methodist Church for providing this venue, and Lymm Festival for all the support and the work that's gone on behind the scenes to make this show happen. And of course, a huge thank you to you for watching the show. If you do want to know more about any of the songs or writers, then do look on YouTube, or do, if you like, drop me a line. I've got an email address, which is comicshow@outlook.com. comicshow@outlook.com, and you're welcome to send me a message there. But remember, of course, that you can now watch this show as many times as you want over the course of the next 72 hours, although I am obliged to say that there is a government health warning applying there, so don't do things to excess. Anyway, Lymm Festival will be happening in the summer. There are all sorts of exciting plans. There may be things which are online, there'll be things that are outdoors, and we hope there'll be also indoor events. So do look at Lymm Festival's website for more details. But on to the final song, which is from the late, the great, and much lamented Victoria Wood. Frida and Barry sat up one night. The sky was clear, the stars were bright. The wind was soft, the moon was up. Frida drained her cocoa cup. She licked her lips, she felt sublime. She turned off gardener's question time. Barry cringed in fear and dread as Frida grabbed his tie and said, "Let's do it, do it while the mood is right. I'm feeling appealing, I've really got an appetite. I'm on fire with desire, I could handle half the tenors in a male voice choir. Let's do it tonight." But he said, I can't do it, I don't believe in too much sex. This fashion for passion turns us into nervous wrecks. No derision, my decision, I'd rather watch the Bake Off on the television. I can't do it tonight. So she said, let's do it till our hearts go boom. Go native, creative, living in the living room. This folly is jolly, bend me over backwards on my hostess trolley. Let's do it tonight. But he said, I can't do it, my heavy breathing days have gone. I'm older, I feel colder, it's other things that turn me on. I'm imploring, I'm boring, let me read this catalogue on vinyl flooring. I can't do it tonight. So she said, let's do it, share a night of crazy love. I'll strip bare, I'll just wear stilettos and an oven glove. Don't starve a girl of a palaver, dangle from the wardrobe in your balaclava. Let's do it tonight. But he said, I can't do it, I know I'd only get it wrong. Don't angle for me to dangle, my arms have never been that strong. Stop pouting, stop shouting, you know I pulled a muscle when I did that grouting. I can't do it tonight. Let's do it, share a night of wild romance. frenetic, poetic, this could be your last big chance. To quote Milton, to eat Stilton, to roll a gay abandon on the tufted Wilton. Let's do it tonight. I can't do it, I've other little jobs on hand. Don't grouse around the house, I've got a busy evening planned. Stop nagging, I'm flagging, you know as well as I do that the pipes want lagging. I can't do it tonight. Let's do it while I'm really in the mood. 3 cheers, it's years since I caught you even semi-nude. Get drastic, gymnastic, wear your baggy boyfriends with a loose elastic. Let's do it tonight. I can't do it, I must refuse to get undressed. I feel silly, it's too chilly to go without the thermal vest. Don't choose me, don't use me, my mother sent a note to say you must excuse me. I can't do it tonight. Let's do it, I feel I absolutely must. I won't exempt you, want to tempt you, want to drive you mad with lust. No caution, just contortion, smear an avocado on my lower portions. Let's do it tonight. I can't do it, it's really not my cup of tea. I'm harassed, embarrassed, I wish you hadn't picked on me. I'm just a lump in midlife slump, I feel about as sensual as Donald Trump. I can't do it tonight. Let's do it, I really want to run amok. Let's wiggle, let's jiggle, let's really make the rafters rock. Be mighty, be flighty, come and melt the buttons on my flame-proof nightie. Let's do it tonight. Let's do it, I really want to rant and rave. Let's go, because I know just how I want you to behave. Not bleakly, not meekly, beating you on the bottom with a woman's weekly. Let's do it tonight. Thank you, and good night.